Okay, I got some Stephen A. Smith news. So it looks like ESPN and Stephen A. Smith has agreed to some form of a contract. Stephen A. Smith is prepared to sign this mega contract with ESPN. Been living under a rock, allow your boy to explain. Basically, Stephen A. Smith, for the past couple of years, have been discussing about him being the highest paid sports personality in sports entertainment. And this contract is in the upwards of $100 million. And I think I've gotten some reports that it will be anywhere ranging from 20 to 25 million. I'm not 1,000% sure on that. I think Stephen A. Smith even commented on a recent podcast discussing his contract, with the host. And Stephen A. Smith was using the example of Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott got a new contract. He's making like $60 million a year. And he's basically saying Dak Prescott knows his worth. He knows his value. And if Dak Prescott can get a raise and only taking the Dallas Cowboys to 2 playoff victories, then why not Stephen A. Smith exercise his value and realize that he's worth it? And if Dak Prescott can do that and no one can bat an eyelash with his contract situation, then why would people bat an eyelash for Stephen A. Smith? Now, I've discussed how Stephen A. Smith, as well as Stephen A. Smith, I'm going to give it to Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless, as well as there was several other people pioneered the popularity of being an influencer in sports entertainment, okay? Where your name speaks in volume, all right? Now you got the Shannon Sharps of the world, the Pat McAfees of the world. You're starting to see an increase of people talking about sports, generating a lot of money, and they know their value. Troy Aikman has got a multi-year contract to only do Monday Night Football. A lot of people don't necessarily talk about that. I like Troy Aikman. ESPN knew the value of Troy Aikman. That's why they didn't bat an eyelash giving Troy Aikman that money. Just like ESPN saw the value of a Pat McAfee, and they didn't bat an eyelash of getting Pat McAfee his money. And Stephen A. Smith is looking around going like, wait a minute, if Pat McAfee can get this money, if Troy Aikman can get this money, Shannon Sharp just recently signed a multi-year contract with ESPN. If he's allowed to get this money, then why not Stephen A. Smith? So Stephen A. Smith is not only going to get the money, not only he's going to get the bag, but he's going to be the highest paid sports influencer in sports entertainment. Now, I don't think it's going to stop there. You're going to see a lot of people in a lot of different networks and a lot of different places that know their value. And I think this is going to kick in all these sports commentators, these sports influencers, of making a lot of money. And if you want to keep them on your network, you're going to have to pay up. All right. So that's that. Now, everyone has critiqued and criticized Stephen A. Smith's request. There have been several reports. I talked about this on several videos of insiders that work at ESPN that is not too thrilled of Stephen A. Smith requesting this amount of money. And if you know ESPN's timeline, if you know how ESPN do business, when they sign one of these big major contracts, heads roll on other people still working for ESPN. They're letting go of people left or right. They're not renegotiating contracts. And I think when Stephen A. Smith gets his money, the same thing's going to happen at ESPN. They're not going to be able to afford to keep everybody or to make everybody happy. Now, ESPN is owned by Walt Disney. Now, Walt Disney, they print money. Okay, they have no problem generating and getting money. But to Walt Disney, it's the principle of the matter. ESPN is not, out of all the things Walt Disney owned, ESPN is not one of those things that makes and generates a lot of money for Walt Disney. Okay, now back in the day, ESPN can just sign their name on a blank check, give it to Walt Disney, and they just rubber stamp it. Now those days are over with. All right, so there's checks and balances when you want to bring in someone into your network, or you want to keep somebody on your network. Now, Stephen A. Smith, I don't think Walt Disney would bat an eyelash about keeping Stephen A. Smith. I think Stephen A. Smith has contributed a lot for ESPN. Stephen A. Smith has been there with ESPN through the good, the bad, the joy and the pain. Even though this contract is not going to represent his time at ESPN dealing with their ups and downs, Stephen A. Smith has been on both sides of the spectrum when ESPN was in their golden era, and when ESPN has not been so golden. All right, and he stuck it out. Now, I always tell you guys this. ESPN, when he hired Stephen A. Smith, ESPN didn't even know what they're going to get out of Stephen A. Smith. As a matter of fact, it took a lot of poking and prodding from Skip Bayless to get the people at ESPN to give Stephen A. Smith an opportunity, a chance. All right, so. Now, fast forward to today, Stephen A. Smith knows his value, and he knows his worth. And a lot of people are calling him Mr. Greedy because of this new contract that he's getting ready to sign. A lot of people in the production side of things, a lot of analysts on ESPN knows it's the beginning of the end as far as their careers, in order to keep all of these mega stars under the ESPN umbrella. You're already paying Pat McAfee a boatload of money, Troy Aikman, Shannon Sharp, and now you're going to pay a boatload of money to Stephen A. Smith. And everyone knows that every time you sign a big major player, the next day on the back pages, they're not renegotiating a contract with someone that's been working at ESPN, or whatever. There's checks and balances to everything. So everyone's not too happy, not too thrilled, and they haven't been ever since Stephen A. Smith has echoed this sentiment of, hey, I want to be the highest paid sports analyst in sports history. Now, Steve, look, if I know a lot of people are not fans of Stephen A. Smith, but you got to ask yourself, if you're Stephen A. Smith and you see all these people signing these major figure contracts, and you're saying to yourself, well, I know my worth, I know my value, I know my value is more important, is more bigger than their value, and if they can get that type of money, why can't I? Now, I know a lot of people don't think that's the most popular thing to think about, but if you was put in that position, you'll be doing exactly what Stephen A. Smith is doing. But this is business. This is not feeding the world, or charity, or just taking just enough to just live comfortably. Okay, this is generational wealth that Stephen A. Smith is going to embark with this contract. So a lot of people are not happy with Stephen A. Smith, demanding this contract. Not only demanding this contract, but getting this contract. All right, and a lot of people are not happy with it. So if people were put in the shoes of a Stephen A. Smith, they would be doing the exact same freaking thing. Okay, so that's that. So, people just going to have to deal with the fact that this is coming. And I guarantee you, Stephen A. Smith and ESPN has agreed on a number. And Stephen A. Smith is going to sign his name on the dotted line. Now, I've done several videos of the possibility of, well, maybe ESPN, will just stick to their guns, give him a figure. If he doesn't like that figure, then they're going to move on without Stephen A. Smith. Now, there's a lot of people that made a lot of videos saying, well, who needs who? Does ESPN even need Stephen A. Smith, or does Stephen A. Smith need ESPN? I think it's a combination of the both. I think ESPN needs Stephen A. Smith. Even though First Take is doing numbers, First Take isn't doing what First Take was doing back in the day. But also back in the day, ESPN was in their glory form. Okay, they was in their Optimus Prime form. Okay, they could not do anything wrong. But Stephen A. Smith is on the number one show on ESPN. Stephen A. Smith is a big icon and a big influencer, particularly in sports entertainment. You got to give Stephen A. Smith his credentials. You got to give him credit. You got to give him slack. So ESPN needs Stephen A. Smith, but also Stephen A. Smith needs ESPN. Let's just be real. I don't think Stephen A. Smith is going to be signing a $100 million contract at Fox Sports 1 or or any other network, CBS network, NBC. There's nothing bigger than ESPN. Now Fox Sports 1 is desperate. They'll probably give him $100 million or something close to $100 million. But I think Fox Sports 1 is downsizing, and they've been downsizing for the past couple of years. And people are going back to when they let go of Shannon Sharpe. I can go even further back than that. They were downsizing back when they let go of Jason Whitlock. You started noticing a trend of them not signing their big names. Okay, the only big name that they signed, that got a contract extension was Skip Bayless, and they was willing to give Skip Bayless the money. Now since they didn't renew Skip Bayless's contract, well, who's bigger in Fox Sports 1 at right now that can say that they are similar on the same level as Skip Bayless? Okay, Colin Cowherd, but there's rumors and rumbles. There's rumors out there that Colin Cowherd may be leaving Fox Sports 1. Maybe doing his own thing with the volume, maybe returning back to ESPN, maybe. But Fox Sports 1 has been downsizing. They're not signing signing people to big name contracts because they have been burned on that, plan. When you signed Shannon Sharpe and Skip Bayless to all this money, and you don't even have the second best show on television, okay? And then now you have these two people of Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharpe saying, well, you're gonna have to max us up. Now they maxed up Skip Bayless, and when they maxed him up, it didn't fare well as far as the ratings went. Even when they had Shannon Sharpe, Undisputed could never dethrone First Take. And my thing of it is, if you can't dethrone First Take, then why continue with this show and max out two people, giving them multi-million-dollar contracts, and you're only going to get this show to maybe possibly second place, and that's not good. Now there's some other parameters in place to why Fox Sports 1 and Undisputed wasn't that successful. I've said this when they started Undisputed 7 or 8 years ago, that I didn't think Undisputed was going to be the First Take killer because Fox Sports 1 is simply just not in a lot of households. Okay, back then they were not, and even today they're not. Okay, so could Stephen A. Smith go to Fox Sports 1? Get a multi-million-dollar year contract? Of course. Is it going to be upwards to $100 million? I don't think so. I think Fox Sports 1, they would love to have Stephen A. Smith, but if you think about it, Fox Sports 1 has been there and done that with Stephen A. Smith. And they didn't believe Stephen A. Smith back then. Now, of course, that was a much younger Stephen A. Smith. Fox Sports 1 didn't really know back then how to do sports television like they managing and figuring out a way how to do it today. All right. So, when I feel like ESPN needs Stephen A. Smith, and I know Stephen A. Smith needs ESPN in order to get this type of contract. I don't think he can get this type of contract anywhere else. If he goes full independent and just content create, he's not going to generate that type of money. Even though the Stephen A. Smith show is doing great, is getting their numbers, particularly on YouTube and things of that nature, he's not going to get $100 million from YouTube. Okay. So yeah, that's that. So guys, tell me what you think. Rate, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video. Deuces.